All right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Smack our cheeks, get our makeup right. All right. Welcome to Chefnpodcast, where we're going to talk about what's cooking in food and what's not cooking in food, what's happening, what's not happening, and all the things in between. So I have a ultra special guest with me today. This is my first mentor chef, an amazing chef, a guy who's been known around Arkansas and around the country as an amazing chef, a mentor. He's probably the longest relationship I've had with a chef. He was the first one who met me as a snot-nosed brat, which I'm sure he'll talk about. He's a pastor. He is everything you can imagine. And this is Chef Don Bingham. Hey, Don, how you doing, man?
Hey, Chef, how are you? Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, man. It's good to see you. You know, Don and I have been around. We worked for each other for a long time, or I worked for him for a long time. And then, you know, as things drift in and out, you know, we'd kind of reconnect and then fall back. And so I couldn't have think of a better person to have on the show, Don. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is Chefnpodcast, and as you know, we're going to go through some questions here, and they're going to be just on-the-fly questions. A little culinary term there, meaning just quick. So on-the-fly questions, two answers here, right or wrong. You get to pick one, and then we'll circle back and talk about what they are after that.
Okay.
All right. So apple pie or bread pudding?
Bread pudding.
Bread pudding. Cast iron or stainless steel?
Cast iron.
Cast iron. All right. Two foods that you could not live without.
Beef.
All right.
Yeah, chicken. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a meat person.
No, that's great. No, it's all right. Now this one's a tough one here on multiple levels. Christmas or Easter?
Oh, wow. From a holiday standpoint, I would say Christmas. From a faith standpoint, I'd say Easter.
Okay.
So for sake of our having good time this season, let's say Christmas.
Okay. Christmas it is. That was on purpose. Okay. Would you rather a plated dessert or a great cookie?
Well, plated dessert.
Plated dessert. All right. Blue cheese dressing or Thousand Island dressing?
Oh, blue cheese.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Owning a restaurant or running a restaurant?
Oh, they're both have their sad elements. Owning or running? Running.
Running. All right. A party of 5 or a party of 5,000?
5,000.
All right. Plastic or China?
China.
And then lastly, a high-end dinner out or a comfort food dinner with the entire family at your home?
That changes with stages of life, but I'm going to say family dinner at home.
Okay, yes, I would agree with that. All right. Yeah, I didn't stump you at all really on those. So, all right, let's go back. We're going to talk about bread pudding. So why'd you pick bread pudding over apple pie?
Well, Jason, because I've always liked anything eggy.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
And it's full of eggs and sugar, the things we don't need, the things we need in moderation. The vanilla, the nutmeg. I'm a nutmeg freak.
Yep.
And so early on in my career, when we did own and run a restaurant, so I have both backgrounds there. I created my own recipe for bread pudding. It was called Zinzendorf's bread pudding. So I've had a love-hate relationship with bread pudding all my life.
Oh, I'm
so
sure.
Yeah, that's why I did it. I love it.
And Zinzendorf's was the name of your restaurant, correct?
It was, and that was because we opened up in the area where we are. We were the first really tea room in the area, which served a tea fair during the lunch hour And then on Friday nights, we had what we called a Zinzendorf feast, which was 7-course meal. We are in a dry county, for those of you who know what that means. It's non-alcoholic at the time. And so we could not serve alcohol, but we could cook with it for certain. So we had a wonderful time with the restaurant of serving things like bread pudding and other delicacies.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's well, I know working for you, I've made my fair share of bread pudding in my time there for sure. And that brings us up to the next thing that I used multiple times working for you, cast iron. So what's so special about cast iron to you?
My wife and I have a cast iron collection, from square to round to cornbread sticks to large to small, and we're cornbread people. And as many of your viewers are, gluten-free on my wife's part. So we have two. I'll cook non-gluten-free. She'll cook gluten-free cornbread. And you can really hardly tell the difference between the two. If you were just a non-discriminating diner. But we have to have those seasoned black iron skillets, done properly, cleaned properly, heated properly before pouring the batter in. We're just cast iron people. Then we do have the crock pot, stock pots with the lids and the curved iron handles, somewhat used for outdoor camping, but we do a lot of stews and chilies and jambalayas and that kind of thing in our cast iron.
That's awesome. I figured you were going to say that. And just like I said, I think it was Chef Ojan, you just take the nice soapy rag to that, really scrub all that stuff out of there, right? That's
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So you said beef and chicken for your two foods couldn't live out. So you're the carnivore.
Well, I shouldn't have said that professionally, but I do like plain meats. They don't have to be encrusted. They don't have to be marinated. I just like the cleanness of the taste. I like the low carb contents of their taste. I like that married with simplicity, married just with simplicity, like baked potato, like boiled potatoes with parsley and butter, carrots with honey and walnuts, something very tasty. But I'm a sweetaholic. And in my later years, I've had to watch the calories and the carbs, and I'm like all of America, I'm always on a diet.
Oh, I know.
But I love the salads. I do like my wife's vegetables. She's an excellent cook, and she cooks healthy. So I like the flavor of the vegetable, not covered up with 100 other things. Therefore, I like a healthy portion of meat.
I'm right there with you. A lot of people always ask chefs, so what's your favorite thing to eat? And honestly, I'm the same. Give me a good grilled piece of meat and a salad, and I'm happy every single time.
And you're happy, yeah.
Every single time.
My flesh would choose desserts. I could live off of sugar morning, noon, and night.
I know.
But you and I both know that's not reality.
Oh, if I do eat all that sugar, my washing machine tends to shrink my clothes. It's really weird. I don't really know what happens there, but it's bizarre. All right, so I kind of got you on Christmas or Easter. I figured I would. But tell me about Christmas.
Christmas has always been a celebration for us. We have written 4 cookbooks, as you know, and one of them is Christmas, celebrating Christmas. So we have partied, we've celebrated, we've hosted for 50 years the season, and from big to small, from 5 to 5,000, as you said earlier. And our house has turned into a wonderland of color. When there's only the 2 of us now, all of our children are married, grown. We have 12 grandchildren, and they'll come home for the season and for holidays and whatever. But we really enjoy promoting Christmas season with quality, with excellence, with tradition. I'll throw in a little bit of everything has to be black and white and gray, like, everybody's decorating now. But I still want to return to those traditions that you and I grew up on, that our parents grew up on. And the color of Christmas is just so exciting for me. And it was the beginning of my faith concept with what I feel about Easter. So it's all wrapped up in that Isaiah passage of for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. But it's also a time to celebrate with people around the table, around a red velvet donut, I mean, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But just a great time to really pull out all the stops. January's coming. Remember.
That's it. I know.
So,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. You know, it's funny. I laughed about the white and gold because Nicole was trying to change our tree this year, and Olivia stopped that quickly. She said, "But mommy, all these ornaments are the ornaments that I grew up with." I mean, a 10-year-old says that, right? Well, you don't know what you're talking about, but of course the tree stayed the same. So we didn't go the white and gold route, but I know what you're saying there. And yeah, I mean, I think of Christmas with you at the governor's mansion and just, I mean, going above and beyond, more decorations than I'd ever seen in my entire life, with dolls swinging from 22-foot swings from the ceiling and, like, I mean, just blowing it out of the water. And another thing that made me think of you, that's why I asked the blue cheese dressing or Thousand Island, because I think I made 7,000 gallons of each one of those when I worked for you, because they're so good. But you went with blue cheese over Thousand Island.
I like cheese, anything. And blue cheese is just, if you don't push the envelope, it's just smooth enough, aged enough that it's palatable, not offensive. And as you know, in our blue cheese dressings, we put Worcestershire sauce, lemon juice, onions, water. So we don't dumb it down, but it's just rich and not sweet. Mm-hmm. Like Thousand Island, I always put sweet pickle juice. I don't know what you do, but sweet pickles and pickle juice in that.
I'm sure my recipe is similar to yours. That's where I got it.
So the blue cheese is a refreshing alternative to ranch. I mean, everything in the world is ranch. So it's hard to find, except in the higher end restaurants and culinary facilities, a good blue cheese.
I agree with you. I liked it. I mean, I like it. The stronger, the better. If it makes my tongue go numb, I want a whole pound of it. So then, this one's dear to my heart too. Coffee or tea? You went with coffee.
That's interesting too, because coffee has no fats, no calories, no carbs, and basically no taste. But I still, I feel safe. Now, I am guilty of paying $7 for a Starbucks cup of coffee, but I always ask for it with heavy cream, and it's just something that's warm and comfortable. I really love sweet tea, but when I get to the point where I don't need the sugar anymore, then I just do not have the tea. That's so right. Coffee it is.
I understand. All right. Well, you went over your restaurant a little bit, Zinzendorf's, and so that kind of goes with this question here: owning one or running one. So tell us, why is it better to just run one than own one?
In running one, you really don't necessarily have to worry about the governmental red tape. It's like death and taxes. It's always with you. You're always owing another quarterly estimate. You're always owing employees' taxes. Those are the necessary, but sometimes discouraging factors of owning your own business, not just restaurant, but any business. I'd rather be the creative source of encouraging a wait staff, be the front of the house encourager, make sure the chefs are enjoying what they're doing. It's not just another job. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you've missed the whole boat. Mm-hmm. So I can be far more passionate about running and going with the seasons and encouraging new customers than I can sitting at a computer filling out tax forms. A lot of people have to do it all. I understand that. I did for 6 years. That's why I would choose getting a paycheck for myself and going home knowing I had run the establishment like it needed to be run, rather than just struggling every day to make ends meet, trying to keep up with both hats.
That's right. No, I'm spot there, right there with you, because, many people have asked me over the years, why don't you open your own place? Well, I mean, I worked for the state, I worked for Aramark, and I worked for, Blue Cross Blue. I worked for big companies where I knew I was getting a paycheck.
Absolutely.
With a wife and kids, which you had with your restaurant, I mean, you don't know.
That's exactly
you got to pay
right.
everybody before you can take anything home. So
that's exactly right.
I understand. All right, now this one I figured you were going to answer like you did with the party of 5 or party for 5,000, and you went with 5,000. Why'd you go
Absolutely.
5,000?
Well, because it's goal oriented, it's detailed oriented, it's making sure things have a budget, have a timeline. Everybody that isn't working in sync together and clockwork. And I like crowds around celebration and foods. Now, there's time for quiet time. I'm all about that. I must have that. But in a celebration and a party, I would choose the big facility, the big lights, the big noise, the big sound, the big music, the big everything. And I think one of your questions had to do with China plastic. I'm all about China for those kind of big events.
Well, so I've done multiple big events with you. We did a few at University of Central Arkansas where you helped me get on as the executive chef there. And then, at the mansion, of course, we did multiple things. We even did a wedding together for a pretty high end person. And I mean, that was 2,000 or 3,000 people. I think there were Mickey and Minnie Mouse were there and a former president was there.
Jason.
I mean, it was a big deal. And I think that was
the biggest budget wedding that I personally had ever done. I want to bring up something to you. Since we're talking about doing things together in events, we have to tell your viewers about the one and only ice sculpture that topped all ice sculptures. And you were very much involved with that. Do you remember it, Jason? It was for the inauguration of the governor of the state. And we brought in 4,000 pounds of ice, and you all carved that into a castle.
Oh yeah, does
that ring a bell?
It does. Yeah, that was Ed Horniak, right? He was helping out, or he was the one in charge of it, and we built, a massive ice castle out of all that.
Yeah, I thought you entered in on that because ice sculptures they don't hang on trees.
No, they don't. Well, that really brings up a good point of you in particular that I know is that. And that's where I was going with that party of 5,000. You don't do anything small. Everything. I mean, I remember working for you, and like I said, as a snot-nosed brat, thinking this old guy's working circles around me. I mean, and you do. You are without a doubt one of the most just exciting people to be around because you have a binder with every page detailed of what's supposed to happen at this time. This person comes in. This time, this person goes out, and if they're not out. My goodness, we're going to jerk them out and it's time to go. And then, just like you said, if it's 5,000 people, okay, yeah, we could take the easy route and serve it on plastic because nobody wants to wash 5,000 dishes. Nope, not Don Bingham. Yeah. We're serving on China. And I think you said one time in front of me to somebody, even if I serve it on plastic and it's just mac and cheese, it's the surroundings, it's how I do it. And the thought and effort I put into it that'll make these people feel like $1 million. And so that's everything you've ever done. And then of course I put the plug in here for your dining room table there in your house, of course, with the high-end dinner out or dinner with the entire family. And I loved your comment about that changes with stages of life. And isn't that the truth? And so how many kids do you have, Don?
Well, we have 5 married children and 12 grandchildren.
Oh, that's a house full.
So when we have a little dinner at home, it's not so much a little dinner at home. It's a small party, a reception. Right. And we've gotten now in later years where it's more of a potluck because, as you know, I've got 3 certified chefs in my family and everybody's good cooks. Nobody's a dud. So everybody likes to get in and cook and do and bring. And so we'll just have a great time with celebrating.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. That's what I remember about your house and really just about you in general. Okay. So now good job on the quick fire, the answers there. We got all that taken care of. So, I mean, your background's amazing. Everything about you is just fun. Renaissance man. You can do it all. One thing and one story I tell about you all the time, and I don't know if you'll remember, but my wife, Nicole, so for our listening audience there, Don actually facilitated our wedding. He married Nicole and I, my wife, of 16 years now. And so do you remember when Nicole walked into the kitchen there for the first time and how you just embarrassed the pants off of me? Do you happen to remember that?
I remember seeing Nicole standing in that governor's mansion kitchen. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember your reaction still rings through the halls today. So I'm sure you're going to tell
Oh, I'm
everybody
going to tell it.
you've turned blood red right now.
Absolutely. No. So I mean, we were dipping strawberries, probably dipping 1,000 strawberries in chocolate. And Nicole walks in and she came in with a former rep, or I guess the rep she was replacing, who I had asked to go to a football game with me. And she quickly turned me down. And you knew about that, of course. And so Nicole walked in and she was drop dead gorgeous to me. And so I'm like, hey, this clunky version of myself. And, you said, well, Nicole, you better watch out. He's going to try to take you out. And that just like, I turned beet red. And then she, on top of that, said, oh, look, he's turning red, which just made it even worse.
Much like you are right now.
Right, exactly. Yes. It's just, so funny. Oh, I mean, it's funny now. At the time, I was devastated. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's how I got her number. She had to give it to me. So that's what I tell everybody. So,
and look what happened. 2 children later. And
that's right. 2 children, 17 other pets.
Later.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So that's there. Now, going to get into really your background. So husband, father, ACF, American Culinary Federation, certified executive chef, American Academy of Chefs, certified culinary administrator. So, I mean, you've got a good list of alphabets there behind your name. Former restaurant owner, we talked about. 4 cookbooks that you and your wife, Nancy, have put out. The Governor's Mansion administrator twice. I mean, come on, that's pretty awesome to have a once-in-a-lifetime job come around twice. Assistant to the president and the first lady there of University of Central Arkansas, doing all the huge parties on campus for them. I mean, pianist, you play the harp, you do it all, man. Save some awesome for the rest of us. But I mean, I just kind of want to paint the picture here for the audience that don't know you, what all you do. And so to go back to some of that, so the American Culinary Federation, am I correct that you started the chapter here in Arkansas of the American Culinary Federation, which is the certifying body of for chefs across the country, for those who don't know?
Jason, I was one of about 6 key people that wanted to see that professional offering in education and culinary education. And many of the chefs went on to take it to higher, deeper levels when I was busy climbing the ladder of serving people at the governor's mansion. But yes, the early days with chapter meetings and how do we do this? How do we raise funds for endowment programs? All of the things that are necessary. And today that is a drop dead, amazing building in Southwest Little Rock that houses second to none culinary academy, school, teaching facility, certified, accredited, unbelievable. So I had the privilege of starting out in the early years with the school.
And that is awesome. And I mean, I owe my education to you and those 5 or 6 other people that started that chapter here, because as you know, I went to the School of Apprenticeship for the American Culinary Federation here in Arkansas. And then, of course, you're right, that turned into the school that it is today, that's pumping out culinarians into the state. So extremely cool. I love that you were involved in the startup of that. So I've done my fair share of TV appearances. I like to say I was on TV once a week for 10 years, or once a month for 10 years, but you got me beat there, buddy. I mean, so you were really doing TV before TV was a thing to do. I mean, you were on, what channel were you on?
Well, both 11, 7, and 4 at one
All
time or another, and Channel 2, PBS.
Channel 2, all right.
But 11 probably started my television career, with Beth Ward and a show called Dialing for Dollars. And every Wednesday was my day, not monthly, but every week, every Wednesday. And I had all of the segment time that they could give other than news and weather and what have you. And that just sort of built my career with PR work, with being a face that enjoyed fun cooking, quality times. It was a great run. It's a lot of work. You've been there,
it
and
is.
it's not a high paying position either. So it's it's an interesting facet, but that opened the doors for me to do some public broadcast filming as well. The ABCs of Cooking was a series I did. Fundraising for public television. Just having a great ride.
That's, you're right. It is. It's very difficult to do any of that. Most people think probably you just go on TV and you just whip something up real fast and that's it. But there's hours of preparation, hours of grocery shopping, hours of
Absolutely
sweating it out that go into that, all for a either 30-second or 30-minute segment. I know when I was doing them, I would go in. It doesn't matter if I was doing risotto or just dipping one strawberry. You go in, the producer says, "Oh, Jason, sorry, we're going to need you to cut your segment back to 15 seconds. Can you do that?" Sure. And all your work goes down the drain. And you're okay,
right.
Great. So that's really cool. And Don was the one who really brought me on. You brought me on to go in there. I think the first one I did was a smoked turkey for Thanksgiving. We smoked a turkey and took it in, and it was probably still half raw in the middle. It didn't matter. It's the magic of TV.
It's television.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Now, I also have a story that goes along with this, but I'm sure yours is going to be different. So, worst kitchen disaster. At home, at work, whatever it may be. Worst kitchen disaster that you had to pull off.
Well, mine's going to be probably different from yours, is right. But we were catering an event at a place called Pavilion in the Park, which is a upper end, high end shopping mall with a great glass ceiling, landscaped area for seating, and a high school, not prom banquet, but something like that, a high school celebration for seniors was held there, and we were catering it. My staff and it consisted of 3 people, and it was small enough, maybe 100 people, as I remember. But they had wanted steak, potato, salad, very youthy, very simple. No, don't push the envelope. We loaded all the food in the warmers, put it in the back of a pickup truck. And back then you didn't have big heated facilities and things weren't stationary, so we used tiebacks and ropes to anchor the warmers down. And there's a kind of a curvy, not real bad, steep, curvy drive up to the place where you would unload to serve, and the warmer fell out of the truck.
Oh no.
And the door is secure on the warmer, but still, when a warmer topples over and hits the pavement, everything's not going to stay in place. So all of my staff and I got out and tenderly picked up the steaks off of the pavement, and we observed the 3-second rule and put them back in the warmer and did all the cleanup we could possibly do before the event started. So to me, that was a catastrophe. Now I can laugh at it, but then there was a lot of money involved and a lot of time involved. So, and I'm not geared to tying things down well. I'm not geared to plumbing. I'm not geared to electrical work. I'm not geared to carpentry. I have none of those graces or gifts. I have to hire it all done. The closest thing to do is pick up the phone. But in that case, I had to pick up the steaks.
That's right. No, that's all you can do, man. That's that's pretty bad. And that's always one of those cases where you just go, oh my gosh, what do I do? How can I make this not be happening right now?
Yeah.
Can I rewind?
I have others I can tell you if you had time. That's not the only one.
One that I remember the most working with you, speaking of the cast iron earlier, I don't know if you remember, we bought those little miniature cast iron skillets for the governor.
Yes, they were really ashtrays.
They were ashtrays, unused, by the way. They were not used ashtrays, but I think we bought 100 of them for a Boy Scout thing or something. And you made amazing pie dough. It always used to frustrate me. I would have to get out joy of cooking. If looked at the pie dough recipe, and you would come down, you'd say, look, it's this and flour, it's Crisco, and a little bit of, that'll be ice water. And then you'd mix it all up, and it looked so wet. And then boom, it's pie dough. Amazing pie dough, by the way. So you made enough dough for 100 cast iron skillets. And then we tossed all the apples in. So a lot of work. You crimped all the edges, did all the stuff. And then you went through and you were putting cornstarch on top of the apples to soak up all the moisture before we topped them. And the Cisco cornstarch box and the Cisco baking soda box look identical. And you looked down and you went, who gave me baking soda? And so, once again, you go, what do we do here? So somebody tasted it. It's a little salty, but I think it'll be okay.
I went Ashton White, probably.
Oh, it was, yeah. I don't see you mad very often, but you were definitely frustrated. Let's call it that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So last question here, a little more on the serious note. So as someone who's been a mainstay in hospitality, culinary, just in the state, the country for so many years, for your entire career, really, how do you see the industry changing post 2020, post pandemic COVID times? How would you see it going forward? And any advice for future culinarians out there as we move ahead?
One thing for certain in life is change. And I have discovered the older I've gotten that things are constantly changing. I even use the example of everything being black and white and gray in the interior design spectrum today. But Jason, I see it as a challenge for the future. First of all, parents today don't have the time to teach their children to cook. And they're not growing up understanding how to make stocks, how to make sauces, how to do anything other than microwave and drive-through. So we have a challenge as culinarians to try to maintain, all the while adjusting, giving in to the changes that must take place, adapting ourselves to try to keep before people not only quality and excellence, but nutrition and sanitation. And the things that you and I really, really must do. We cannot correct. In the city where you and I live, I'll see long waiting lines in the fast food lines trying to get the popular hamburger or the biggest bang for your buck on the fried chicken. Or people work multiple jobs in the house. Husband and wives are working. So there's not the time on a daily basis. I get it. But we can't throw the baby out with the bath. We must say, okay, so this weekend, we're going to cook some casseroles and put them in the freezer. I'm going to show my children how to set a place setting properly. I'm going to take them out to eat to a fine dining restaurant where they can learn that not all of dining is food. A lot of dining is conversation. And so many times we're stuck on the telephone, we're texting, we're social media, whatever it might be, so that we're not enjoying the experience of the taste, the color, the texture of foods. So I hope that you and I are raising the next generations, plural, because we're older enough now that we can see some of that coming to fruition, to hold on to some of those things, stand firm in our convictions of this is the best way to survive and enjoy life in the food industry.
No, that's a great answer. And I'm right there with you, because it is. If we don't be the ones to show the place setting, to show, just like yesterday, you said, we looked at a picture of a place setting. You said, look at that knife backwards. And it sure enough was, and it's just a picture, but it's just one of those things that stands out to us and, hopefully future generations too. And you're right. We need to definitely get back to the table and back to just the core unit there and have that conversation and have those memories that are made around the kitchen table, around the dining room table, in the kitchen, whatever it may be, because that's where people love to be. People have to eat. So why not enjoy it and have fun doing it? So,
and I want to stress that I'm not against change. And whereas you and I might could have done that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, maybe today's family can only do it Friday. I don't know, but you don't throw the baby out with the bath and you don't give it all up for the sake of convenience.
Right.
So be a little bit disciplined here. I'm encouraging myself and everybody else, and certainly be passionate about what you do.
Absolutely. Now that's great advice there for all generations, really. Okay. Well, you've made it through this far. Now, the next thing is the mystery basket challenge. And so I'm going to give you a list of ingredients here. I'm actually going to text them to you. Or here, I'll read them to you because my phone's acting up here. So these lists of ingredients are going to be, there's 6 of them. One of them is something you would find in a vending machine. And so I want you to tell us what dishes or just singular dish, whatever you want that you would make out of these, and talk us through your thought process as you hear them. And you think, oh, this reminds me of this, so we're going to do this because this is what we've always done at the holidays or wherever it may be. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. We have fresh cranberries. We have carrots, pork loin, apples, molasses, and your vending machine ingredient would be Chex Mix.
Okay. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Go team. Well, immediately, I love pork loin. So,
Right.
you know, I'm going to be excited about the ingredients you gave me, because cranberries, apples, molasses, and carrots make a wonderful ingredient for, a lack of a better term, a pork pot roast.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we would put that pork loin into our crock pot as a springboard off of, nobody has time to spend in the kitchen.
Perfect.
So the fresh carrots, the cranberries, whether they, I would hope this time of year you would do like I would do. I buy a multiplicity packages of cranberries because you can't get them all season, and I keep them in my freezer to resort to them when I want that cranberry flavor. So carrots, apples, sliced apples, even with peel on, apples and pork are fantastic. And cranberry is just like a sister to apples. So cranberries, apples, the molasses is a sweet but strong flavor that marries well with the apples and with the carrots and with the cranberries. Put that in the crock pot on slow, let it cook until there is no tomorrow. I mean, don't time it, just turn it on and leave it alone for 12 hours. I mean, you want this thing to be, you want to be able to slice it, but you want it succulent, rich, tender. And you don't have to do a thing with it. You have nothing to do with the cooking of that once you put all that into that crock pot and the lid on it, and you can forget it and move on to the next thing. The Chex Mix, I'm all about crunch. I love crunch in salads, whether it's cashews or croutons or pork rinds or whatever it might be. So this Chex Mix, I would pass. I would butter it, or half olive oil, half butter, toss the Chex Mix in that, maybe a little Tabasco, maybe a little bit of Worcestershire, roast it off in the oven, dry it out even further in the oven so that it has a golden toasted flavor. I would put that in an elegant little dish with a wonderful spoon and pass it around the table with the roast and let them top that like they would do peanuts on ice cream.
That's
or
awesome.
Yeah, it just gives that little bit of extra crunch with that pork that would be delicious. You could have pureed all of that and encrusted your pork loin and done all that, but this is a simpler, quick version that I think would be tasty. Marry it with a salad, you got it.
I love it, man. Great job. That's I really expected you to go totally different route with that. I love how you tied it in with the last question about, hey, look, people are busy and this is exactly what we need to do. And so many times people say, oh, I bet you and Nicole eat so well, you're probably whipping up stuff left and right at the house because you're a chef. Absolutely not. If you can give me a pork dish like this that I didn't put in the crock pot yesterday and I didn't have it for dinner tonight, I'm all about it. I mean,
And it's basically healthy.
right. Yes.
You're not going to pour the whole jar of molasses in there.
I
So
might.
everything else is good.
Yes. No, that was great. I really expected you to go, Chef Don's, cranberries with all the sugar and the lemon juice and the orange marmalade and then the carrots, the walnuts and honey that you mentioned earlier. These are all things out of your cookbook that I remember from the years. So that's great. You put it all together. I mean, and I also remember you saying, simplify. I mean, that was some of the best advice that I got from you because it's just simple food done well that just works so much. So that was
well,
great.
that advice strictly came from my wife, Jason. Every time I'd walk out the door, she'd say, simplify. I mean, she is so used to being paraded around with all kinds of productions and me gone all the time. And I have had flowers in every commode in our house. I really have been a over the top kind of person. So she made me a sign to hang on the wall that said simplify. And it's all about that, keeping it, reel it in.
Reel it in. I love it. Hey, Don, this has been a pleasure to see you again and to be able to interview my mentor chef. So I appreciate the time today and hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
Jason, this has been so much fun. It's been like old times. I loved my years with you and watching your career blossom and still blossoming. So there's more yet to come. The fat lady has not sung yet.
Flowers in the toilet, just like you said, right? So, well, hey, Don, thanks, man. And we'll talk to you soon.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.